All right, guys, Vivi Wilford back here again with another video. This time going over the the black deck that Luffy will be in. He'll be the leader of. Excuse me. It is the starter deck number 8, where we got the leader, like I said, is a black Luffy card. So let's go into it, check it out, see what's going on here, see what we can see what we think. So life 5, 5,000 power, black leader, straw hat crew. Effect, your turn. When a character is KO'd, give up to one rested Dawn card excuse me, to this leader. So on your turn, when a character is KO'd, give up to one rested Dawn card to this leader. And as we know, black runs a lot of cards like Sakazuki, Kobe, even Monkey D. Garp might find a place in here if something like that's going on. And then there's also events that do this. The effect itself seems a little bit lackluster to me personally. This doesn't seem unbelievable. I'm just going to say that. It seems very average. Let's think about how many KOs we can do at one time. We are going to be looking at a card in this exact set that we're in, the starter set that we're in, that we'll be able to get more than one KO at a time. But let's just say you get 3 right in one turn, because you can also KO them through attacking their rested characters, right? So you can definitely get quite a few, but the most you could ever potentially get on one turn would be 5 if you somehow KO'd all 5. And with Kuzan and stuff, we'll see. I'll say this, as is, like with no setup, on paper, in a vacuum, this leader is very mediocre in my opinion. I would say that he doesn't really contribute anything to the game itself. Excuse me, not to the game. He doesn't really contribute to anything to your deck himself. He just tries to get some momentum off of the momentum you create through your KO effects. So I got to rate him around a 6, maybe even a 5, like a 5 out of 10. I just don't see him as being really all that crazy. But we'll see. I might have to take that back at some point. Maybe he's way better than I thought. But the most he could possibly get is +5 on him if you KO their entire board. In which case, you probably had to swing your board into their board to get it. But who knows? Now, in that case, you'd have board control now, and now you can swing for 10, right? So we'll see. And it does say give up to one rested Dawn card to this leader. So I'm assuming if you smash in first with 10 untapped Dawn, or any untapped Dawn, you wouldn't be able to use this card's effect, because it says when a character is KO'd, give up to one rested Dawn card to this leader. So you wouldn't be able to give the rested Dawn to him unless there's a translational error there. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm going to put this at a 6 for what it's worth. Other than if you put the perfect setup around the card, just everyday average. In the early game, the effect is not really, maybe it'll give you the one extra Dawn a turn if you're KOing every turn. So it kind of makes him to a 6K, but then he doesn't really have an effect. He's just hitting for harder, similar to how Whitebeard would hit. I'm going to say this is about a 6, because it should probably go off once. You should be KOing about one character a turn on average in a black deck. Go and turn, go Kobe into maybe smash a character, into Sakazuki, I'm saying turn by turn, right? So Kobe get a KO, he's a 6K. Next turn, smash a character, he's a 6K. Next turn, use Sakazuki, he's a 6K. And then let's just go into turn, when you have 10 Dawn, drop a Kuzan, he's swinging for 6. So it does seem like he'll be a 6K standard. So I'll give him a little better than average on that. Then I'll give him a 7, but I don't think I can get much higher than that. All right, so 7. It's been 5 minutes discussing this card, but it is one of the leader cards, so it's fine to spend a little more time on that, I think. Okay, let's keep going. So next we got Uda. This is a 2-cost, 3,000 power, 0 counter, black film character. This character cannot be KO'd in battle by leaders. Okay, activate main. You may rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. and leaders can't come in and smash her. They have to dedicate a character to smash her or an effect. I don't see this card as being really that insane. On curve, a 2-cost would typically be a 4,000 power, 1,000 counter. So we're missing 1,000 counter and we're missing 1,000 power to have these 2 effects. These 2 effects, in my opinion, are not exactly great. This character cannot be KO'd in battles by leaders. And then activate main. You may rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. I personally don't think this card is good. I mean, Suru can kind of just do this real fast for you, or a Tashigi for a 3-cost. I think Tashigi's a 3-cost 4K that has this effect, and she's a 2K counter. So I'm going to put this as below average at a 4. I'm going to put this as a 4 out of 10. Someone, if I'm missing something, guys, y'all tell me. I don't think it's good, though. See, so here, next card, 2 costs, 4K power, 1,000 counter. This is a vanilla 5 out of 10. He's an East Blue type character as well. Okay. Black East Blue type character. And then we have the 4-cost Kobe, who's a 1,000 power, 1,000 counter. Okay, so we're missing on curve, right? We're missing 5,000 power. So this effect better be pretty strong, right? Okay, he's a Navy type black character. Effect main, you may rest this character, KO up to one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 2 or less. Okay, not exactly incredible, like as it is, but in conjunction with other cards, like for example, when Kuzan's down, he's killing a 6-cost or less, right? Or a 7-cost or less, excuse me. I'm talking about the 10-drop Kuzan. And you're not discarding a card, which is a big deal. So that, I do think there's something to be said there. This definitely combos with our with the black Luffy leader ability. So that does... He does have the 1K counter. The effect is strong. You're going to be tapping him, so you're not going to be swinging. The 1,000 power is almost, almost irrelevant. But it's also not irrelevant because they're going to try to swing into him, and he'll be easy to take out. Ultimately, I'm going to say that this card, I think this is a solid average card, right? So, if they played this can take out any of the little blockers, and then if you have a Fukuro or a Borsellino or a Sabo or a Blue No Down, they can help protect this guy. And in future sets, once we get to Isho, you'll be able to stand this guy back up. I think this guy is just a poor man's version of Monkey D. Garp, the 5-cost, because Monkey D. Garp, the 5-cost, is a 5-cost, 6K power, same exact effect, but it's for 4 or less. It KOs up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 4 or less, but you have to pitch a card with it. So this only does a 2 or less, and he's only 1 cost less. I'm just going to give this an average 5 out of 10. This is just extremely average. With the right cards around it, it can be better. But on paper, what it does, he's even weaker than his last version, right? Like the 3-cost Kobe is a 4K power, 1K counter. So just better in every regard there. And also, his just comes into play. You KO a 3 or less, but you have to pitch a card. So, it's one of those where I think I would just rather have that one still, because it's about tempo. This would be a card, if once you get Kuzan down, the 10-cost Kuzan, you can start tapping and KOing everything, right? With a card like this, or KOing like almost anything. But anyway, interesting card. It has a counter at least. It has an effect to KO. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Okay, so this card I was talking about earlier, or hinting to earlier. Shanks, 9-drop, 10,000 power. Or 9-cost, 10,000 power, black, red hair pirates character, no counter. Effect, you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO all characters with a cost of 1 or less. So with a card like this and the Luffy leader, you can probably get like a nice plus 3K or plus 4K out of this effect. You know what I mean? Especially, let's just... imagine you have down, the Isho card. If you did let's say you did turn 4 on curve, you have 8 Dawn, you can go Isho, making them drop 2 cards, right? Well, the next turn 5, if you have Shanks in your hand, you can drop him. First attach 1 Dawn to your Isho. I did that a little bit out of order, where you drop everyone's cost by 3, right? Then you play this card, pitching it. You do have to trash 1 card from your hand, but it KOs everything that's 1 or less. So with Isho's ability, that's a 4 or less down. They're all of their 4 or lesses are down, and it does say KO all characters with a cost of 1 or less, so even your own. But with your cost reduction effects, it only affects their characters, typically speaking. So I'm giving this card a 9 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 because it does require some setup. Paying 9 for a 10,000 body is actually less than your it's less than vanilla, because a 9 cost should be an 11k body with a 1k counter if you're just following the trajectory of vanilla characters. The on play effect is not good by itself. Trashing a card to KO all characters with a cost of 1 or less, like, is this strictly just meta for something like a LOL deck? I don't like stuff like that. I like when the card is just good in general. This card does require setup, but if you have the setup, it's incredible. So that's why I still give it, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 because of the setup that it requires. Because you also are going to need, if you don't have the Isho down, then you need to turn 5 on curve, drop big Kuzan, and drop all their costs by 5. Then you can trash card and KO everything that's 6 and under on your opponent's side. You know, that's very strong. But again, you're having to use this with another effect. Yes, the effects are readily available in these black decks, but again, I'm judging the card for what it is on paper, how it's, you know, how it is without setup, where you just top deck it. How good is this card by itself? Not incredible, not incredible. But I would still say the effect alone has the potential to wipe their board, and anything with that kind of potential, I have to put it well above average. I'm going to have to put him at an 8.5. I'm going to call it final answer 8.5 out of 10. Okay, 4 cost, 1,000 power, blocker, merfolk character, 1,000 counter, like I said, 0 power. On play, give it one of your opponent's characters, -4 cost during this turn. You know, this is, I would almost argue this is worse than Ice Age. Because for 1 cost, you can do -5 to a character, and then you have the trigger to just KO something. I think that's a 3 cost or less. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this card. 0 power. It is a merfolk type, so it doesn't really have any synergy there. The on-play effect does work. Excuse me. But now what do you do with this character? She's a 0 cost. So we'll have to see if something can be done with her later to help out justify playing her. Because like I said, for that on-play effect, that is just a worse version of Ice Age for 3 cost more. What are you paying? 3 cost more to potentially have a 1k counter in your hand? I don't see this. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing something. I'm gonna have to give this my lowest score yet. I'm gonna have to give this a 1.5. I'll give it a 2. That's the lowest score I think I've given, because it is at least a blocker, I guess. You know, it's a blocker. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10. It's a 4 cost blocker, -4 to someone. I'm sorry, 2 out of 10. Nefeltari Vivi. Okay, their name is Vivi as well. That's funny. So just so everyone knows, I did not name my name did not come from this. My name is not Vivi from this character. I get mine. I explained in my introduction video. It's VV Ulfric, or Wolfric, spelled with 2 V's instead of a W, but VV for short. So anyway, all right, so we got a 3 cost, 1,000 counter, 1,000 power, Alabasta black character, effect blocker, okay, trigger, play this card. So you're losing 2,000 power on a blocker curve, because typically, you know, like with Fukuro, we have a 3 cost, 1,000 counter, 3,000 power with blocker, and his trigger effect, or excuse me, his effect is not a trigger. His effect is cannot be KO'd by effects. This one, instead, you're losing 2,000 power and that effect to just be able to get it trigger play this card. I think it's a little underpowered for what it does, but I think it's just meant to be a blocker. I'm going to give this card it is a blocker. It does have trigger play this card, so if you have it, you can play it. If you have it and don't have time to play it, you can pitch it for a counter. If you get it off the trigger, you play it. It comes into play at any form, like in any way, even though it is easy to remove. I'm going to give this just an average. It's easy to remove as a blocker. It's easy to run over, and it's easy to ignore, obviously. I'll give this a 6 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. it's above average in the fact that no matter where you have it, it's always on, right? If it's on the board, it's blocking. If it's in your hand, you could dish it for a 1K counter for something. And if it comes off the top of your life pool, you can play it for free as a 1K blocker. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Because other than those things, which is nice, that what do they say? The best ability is availability. This card is always available to you. So it probably, man, I kind of want to give it a 7 out of 10 because of that. I'm going to go 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10. Higuma, 1 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter. Okay, this is a Mountain Bandits black character. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. This is a very awful version of Tsuru, who is a 1 cost, 2,000 counter, who has this exact same effect. On play, give it one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during this turn. I think she might be 1,000 power less, or maybe she's a 0 power. I can't remember, and it doesn't matter because you're literally only using her for this, or for her plus 2,000 counter. This card by itself is a worse version of her. So I'm going to have to say that this card is it's not on curve at all, because, you know, on curve would be a 1 cost 3,000 power, 1,000 counter, or yeah, 1,000 counter. And then you would be, they're taking away 1,000 power so they can give someone -2 during this turn. So this is just a flat out 5 out of 10. This is just a 5 out of 10 average card. That's black themed. Makino, 2 cost, 0 power, 2,000 counter. Okay, so already a 7 out of 10 because it's usable in any deck. If there is a character with a cost of 0, draw 1 card. Okay, this is a black Windmill Village character. This for me is a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. It's not the craziest effect because it is conditional in the fact that they have to have a 0, but it can draw you a card. Okay, so if you're running this in a GARP deck, if you're running this in a Smoker deck where you're trying to get stuff to 0 anyway for their effects, if you have down your Kuzan late game, you could pay 2 to draw a card. Or typically speaking, you'll be able to, right? And then it sits in your hand as a 2,000 counter. I'm going to go with 7.5 out of 10 on this. It's close to 8. I don't think it's quite 8 material, but it might be. Maybe it's an 8 out of 10, right? Maybe. Okay. Next. Okay, Monkey D. Garp, 5 cost, 7,000 power, 1,000 counter, black, vanilla, navy character. This is a vanilla card, 5/7/1, right on cue. This is 5 out of 10. Okay, Monkey D. Luffy, another vanilla card. This is 3 cost, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter, black, Straw Hat Crew character, 5 out of 10, right on par for being an average card. Excellent. Laboon, 4 cost, 6,000 power, 1,000 counter, black animal character. 5 out of 10. This is right on par for being a vanilla creature. 5 cost, 6,000 power, 0 counter, black former Baroque Works character here, named Mr. Tuban Kure Bentham. Whatever that I don't understand. I don't know all these names. Sorry, guys. I don't watch the manga, or the anime, rather. Excuse me. The effect is Dawn ×1. At the end of a battle in which this character battles your opponent's character, you may KO the opponent's character you battled with. Wow. If you do, KO this character. So he is ensuring for 1 Dawn that you can KO any of their characters, right? With the exception of like a Marco, right? Where you can just, Marco, where you can just pitch a Whitebeard card to basically resurrect him or keep him from dying. Yeah, this card's solid. It is heavily costed for what it's doing, and if there's not a character you need to focus on destroying for him or with him, at the end of a battle in which this character battles your opponent's character, you may KO the opponent's character you battled with. Okay, so I mean, yeah, even if you survive with this guy, right? So if you have 1 Dawn attached to him, swing for 7 to KO a character, right? Say you don't have to use the effect, it just KOs the character, okay? Or you swing face. Now, next turn, the Dawn doesn't go anywhere. It's still on him. It says, at the end of a battle in which this character battles your opponent's character, you may KO the opponent's character you battle with if you do KO this character. So if they swing at him to take him out, and you just dump all of your counters into him, or however much is needed to survive, you can still use his effect, correct? And just KO both characters now. That seems pretty good. It's kind of weird. It doesn't have a counter, so I have to take a point off for that. the effect, like, I mean, I guess at that point, just don't swing into him, right? um, just use blockers or KM with a jet pistol, something like that. But I think this card is very good on paper. I think it's very solid. And when you're putting the 1 Dawn on him, he's a 5 swinging for 7. He just doesn't have the counter. I'll give him a 7 out of 10. I think this card's fine. It's maybe a 6.5 out of 10. But I'm going to have to say 7 out of 10, actually. 7 out of 10, because this character can technically KO, excuse me. This character can KO any character on your opponent's side of the board if he can battle with them. He can KO any of them. So I have to give him a 7 for that alone. All right, very solid. Cool card. Okay, Gum Gum Bell. This is a 2-cost black Straw Hat Crew event. Main, the effect is main. You may add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -7 cost during this turn. The trigger is add up to 1 black character card with a cost of 2 or less from your trash to your hand. Not really good in my opinion. Not great. It does draw you a card technically. It's coming from your life, but it's pay 2 to draw a card from your life. And then you can give up to one of your opponent's characters -7 cost during this turn. This is another situation where if I'm trying to go for this specific effect, I just want to use a Ice Age, in which I don't want to use Ice Age, by the way. Like I typically don't want to use it. I'm not saying that there's never an instance where you'd want to use it, but I don't need this effect, typically speaking, in a black deck. I build my deck to get around effects like Ice Age where I can just maintain it, right? Like you want to drop the 10-drop Kuzan and then deal with whatever they have. In this case, all right, it says you may add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -7 cost during this turn. So if you don't have, you may add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. If you don't have any life cards, I don't think you can even use this ability. So then it's just a dead card in hand if you top deck it. I don't like this card. The trigger is not horrible, but it's also not great. It says add up to 1 black character card with a cost of 2 or less from your trash to your hand. What is this 2-drop character that black would run? Is this like a Monkey D. Garp 2 cost? I don't know. I mean, like, I don't really... Maybe... It does at least go to your hand, so if it's like a Suru, like a 2K counter, you can snag that out of your trash. But, you know, generally speaking, I just don't see this card as being very good. I'm going to be honest. I put this at below average. Because I could be spending 2 costs to... I mean... Even just pumping one of my characters plus 2,000, I feel like would be better than this card. It is true that giving someone -7 means you can KO anyone in the game with Kobe. So like a little 2-card combo, 3-card, because you have to discard a card with Kobe as well. A little 2-card combo, you know, well, hang on. You may add a card from the top of your life cards, so that replaces this card, right? And then you'd Kobe them, and then he discards a card. So you're I don't know. It's just one of those cards. I don't like it, and I think it's kind of impractical by taking your life away, because in black decks, that's not something we can mess with. So maybe this has a place in the black and yellow deck. Maybe this is a black-yellow style card. I don't know. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 10. I think it's just under an average card for what that cost is and everything. I think it's just under average. Okay. Gum Gum Pistol. We have a 3-cost black Straw Hat Crew event. Effect. Main, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. Trigger, draw 1 card. Okay, I mean, this is fine, because currently we have pay 2 to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less, right? And it's either Meteor, Volcano, or Great Eruption. It's one of those two. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But we have... So for 2 cost, you're KOing up to something for 1 or less. Well, this one is for 3 cost, you're KOing something up to 2 or less. Triggers, draw a card. That's solid. Yeah, I think this card's fine. I think for black decks, this is just a flat-out 5 out of 10. Now, one thing I did notice is, you know, it might even be a little less than a 5 out of 10. Like, if I were to rate the 2-costed one, I think it's even better. Because in the decks you'd want to play that would be like a Smoker or a Garp deck, right? Well, in the case of Garp in particular, you'd want to just, instead of paying the extra Dawn here for the KOing something that's a 2 or less, you'd want to use the extra Dawn on your Garp to reduce their cost by 1 or less and buffing you, and then paying the 2. Do you see it? Does that make sense? If not, just ask me to explain in the comments below. But generally speaking, the more you have to spend in a deck like this, the worse off. The trigger drawn card is just straight value. That's solid. The trigger's excellent. That would be like a 7 out of 10. But this effect, in my personal opinion, well, depending on what deck you're playing, right? Depending on what deck you're playing and what the meta looks like, I feel like this card is a little bit worse than the other one, the 2-cost one that KOs someone up to 1 or less. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. I'm going to give it a very average 5 out of 10. Okay, and that's it. That's it for the black deck, the new deck coming out. I'm not sure when this one's releasing, but this one is going to be coming out in the near future here, the not too distant future, and it looks really cool. Some of these cards look really cool. They're going to add to a lot of the other black decks laying around. I don't think this leader will see much play. It's just me being honest. I don't think it's better than Rob Lucci that we looked at. I don't think it's better than Smoker, and I don't think it's better than. I don't even think it's better than like a Garp variant, which would be like a red-black variant. But that's just me personally. But I do think Garp is better than what most people think he is. Not saying he's S tier or something. I'm not trying to put a. Maybe I'll do a tier list later on what I think. About the leaders, the current leaders and whatnot, or maybe even future leaders, whatever. But I don't think this card is better than those cards. Like, that's just me personally. But other than that, I mean, we got some really good, really decent cards here. Like, I thought Shanks was incredibly solid. This card was interesting. The Shirahoshi, very interesting card here. This Nefeltari VV card was pretty solid for what it's doing. Makino, another 2K counter we got. And I think that was pretty much it. This guy was interesting too, the Mr. 2 Bon Kure. That should be interesting to see how that plays out. The two events were kind of lackluster to me, kind of mediocre, kind of mid. Okay, guys. Well, thank y'all for watching. If you made it this far, especially, please, if you don't mind, or if you just want to help out, please give me a like and a subscribe. And I'm going to try and keep these videos coming. And hope you enjoyed. All right, see you in the next video. Peace.